welcome back to While the Leaves Wither Away, a Yokai Watch AU. In the last episode, we did chapters 5 to 10, and I also have right here this beautiful piece of art that was made by the author, Hazel herself, for last episode's thumbnail. So I'm just showing it here because in the thumbnail, part of it is cropped out, to fit the fit the size that you need for a thumbnail. But anyway, without further ado, we're going to try and continue today. We're going to try and reach the end of chapter 15 is what I've been advised to aim for. Who knows? I could even go further, but I don't. I think that's a good stopping point, because it seems like that's going to be a pretty major chapter. So chapter 11, don't be afraid, my girl. And then the summary is Noelle's thoughts spill out of control. I've been told my read of Noelle is pretty good, so let's see how things go with her. Nosy? The girl's breath hitched in her throat. How stupid of her to not pay attention to the incoming steps hurrying up the stairs, only brought aware by the gentle knock of the door. Her head rose from her arms, cheeks stained wet and nose red. A thin slab of ice quickly summoned in her palms to cool her face off at the last second. Her father's knuckles rapped against the door again, head leaning into the panels in an attempt to listen in. You could hear rustling inside, far more tranquil than the sobs he'd heard from downstairs, but still equally concerning. Noelle, I'm going to come in, okay? He warned, opening the door just a tiny bit. And once you didn't shout for him to leave, peeked his head in entirely. She looked no less of a mess, though Harvey could only see the back of her head from his angle, the need to turn away worrying him further. There we go, name drop. Yep, the dad's called Harvey this time. In the original Yokai Watch, we have a different dad. Is it Adam? I think his name is. But I don't think the mother even has a name. But anyway, because Hazel said, "Oh, he's hiding it like it's some big reveal." I just want to respect the original narrative. Okay, this is when it was intended to be revealed to the reader, so that is when I am revealing it. Everything okay? Subtly, Noelle began ripping up the photo, dropping it directly below her into the bin. She couldn't bring herself to answer for a while, because what could she say? Why would she willingly break him further? Fine, she mumbled. Don't worry about it. Of course I'm worrying. Why wouldn't I be? He shook his head, pulling over a nearby stool to sit with her at the desk, lips pressuring together as she still refused to show her face. She felt his hands slowly rubbing up and down her back. She knew he'd sit there the entire night if it meant figuring out what was wrong, even when the dark circles under his eyes grew bigger every day. He could be resting, should be, but of course Noelle came first. She always did. His hand stopped when she finally turned to face him. What's the matter? Was his question, after the initial surprise, his stomach churning as her state confirmed she'd been crying. Honey, I'm fine, she repeated, raking her fingers through her fringe. Just being stupid. You're not stupid. Don't be so silly. He considered leaning in to give a hug already, but with the suspicious way she'd been acting all week, he didn't know how she'd react now. You've been far more quiet ever since that argument. Have you talked to your mum much since then? I said I'm fine. Please, stop lying to me. Slowly, he took her small hand into his own. I'm not leaving you until I know for sure that you're okay. But I already told you, she snapped, snatching away from his grasp and backing away from the desk. I can't tell you, okay? I said it's stupid. I said that... You don't have to worry, got it? So stop! Her rambling quietened, her voice struggling to keep up with all the things she wanted to say, barely saying anything at all. He can't know. He can't know how she feels. That was already decided. And he was making it really damn hard for it to stay that way. She had to go. Maybe to cool her head or to come up with a better excuse. Just any reason to get away. Noelle! He called out, the girl bolting out of the room, the front door slamming mere moments later. He had to go after her, already rising from his seat, but he took a quick second to scan the desk, searching for clues for what might have happened. He found a brown marker with the cap popped off, and below the desk were a few pieces of the photos sprinkled on top of the overflowing bin. The brown ink was streaked all over his daughter's hair, and with that, it finally clicked. Oh, kiddo, he murmured, halfway down the stairs, reaching the main hallway and yanking his jacket off one of the hooks. Was that Noelle? Yep, I'll go get her, he hastily replied to his wife, and in a flash he rushed out the door as well. Smeared across the prairie below, the UFO and its scattered debris was all Noelle wanted to see. She sprinted straight to the forest, a naive move at this time of night. Though she'd already gone out far later so many times she'd become desensitized. She wasn't entirely sure how long she planned to stay there, her back against a tree, the bark shielding her from the non-existent passerbys. She tried to cover up her snivels and hiccups, thinking of other things to patch up the cracks inside. All she could come up with that wouldn't result in more tears was the UFO. That, and her family, were all she truly cared about. It was sad, really. She ignored that fact. She recited the timeline in her head. A UFO crashes the same day she moves here. People are shot, police cars stay parked around the vessel every day. It's been almost a month now and it hasn't proved to be harmful. There's a weird yokai that most likely came from it. It likes to hang around the forest. This one, especially near the fence. And behind that fence is the old man's... She blinked. Wait. It's quite late. A faint, gruff voice accompanied her. Noelle forgot how to breathe for a moment, pupils shrinking. She'd been lost in thought for far too long, and a silhouette now leaned against the tree in front of her, features clouded by the night. Shouldn't you be inside? I'm fine, thanks, she muttered, shifting a little in her spot. His figure seemed familiar. A vile stench of smoke was in his trail, the girl straining herself not to cough. Okay, you can piss off now, she hissed, wafting her hand in the air. Feisty, he tutted, head tilting to the sky. Are you alone? Well, that's only natural. There comes a time in every yokai's life when they must greet eternal solitude. It was him, she realized. It was him. Yeah, so what? She shrugged, feigning nonchalance for now, sitting up straighter in case any sudden danger came to light. That includes you, you know, he sighed. It'd be unwise to mingle with humans. That boy you were with that night, the gods will take him far before they will take you. The bottom lip trembled. Shit. Shit! Why did she go to the church? Why did she have to lead in that thing? Won't let you lay a finger on him. No need. He is not who I'm looking for. Scanning the forest, he subtly frowned, finding nothing of interest in the desolate woods. Oh, you could help me in that regard. No shot, she grumbled, narrowed eyes staring right into the silhouette's face. I'm not helping someone who couldn't even help himself. He raised an eyebrow. That's who you are, isn't it? Noelle fought back the trembling in her voice. Giovanni Hazeltine, the guy who died in the fire. That's you! He paused, allowing a couple seconds to pass before huffing in amusement. Quite the detective you are. And with the shadows no longer shielding him as he took a step forward, the girl watching could only gawk. Remnants of the fire still remained, half the man's face completely scalded, eye blinded and unusual. She swallowed the growing lump in her throat. Why blend in with the humans when you can stand out in the face of our lords? He continued, relishing in her fear as he crouched down to her level. Only they could understand what sacrifices those in power must make. You cannot trust anyone else. As soon as your status excels, it's only a matter of time before they try to take your life for it. Slowly, an icicle formed onto her palm, beads of sweat dripping down her face. Smaller yokai were coming. They weren't as sneaky as they had hoped, the girl subtly catching sight of them from the corner of her eye, but she forced her full gaze onto the man. His cocky smile faded a little at her silence. I only wished for harmony, you see. I've experienced it all. I know what the gods want. Satisfaction. And what is less satisfying than the perfect world I can create? He held his hand out. Quite tempting, no? The voice in her maw was still stuck, refusing to leave. Branches rattled over her, leaves rustling while yokai brushed past them, and the back of her head thudded against the tree, unable to move it further away, try as she might. In those few moments, she contemplated going straight for the kill, slicing the icicle straight to his throat, and that'll be the end of it. But unlike most yokai, who knew a life only of fighting and vengeance, she couldn't bring herself to commit to it. She was fortunate to avoid that life after all, and it left her petrified. Louder footsteps drew near, the girl tilting her head in the same direction. Nosy? Her father murmured, a faint crack in a startled call. She had to do it. She had to do something now. Her head spun back to Giovanni, his hand initially signaling a friendly shake, now aiming straight for her throat, and her cries echoed through the forest as she swung the icicle forward. It shattered on impact, fragments of the chilled weapon lingering in the forest floor, the girl glancing back up to find him utterly unscathed, backed up and snapping his fingers. From there, the other yokai pounced. She could hardly think at that moment. Dozens of icicles shot from her hands in any direction she could muster, completely impaling any poor soul they touched. Spears dug into the tree bark, many others already reduced to liquid, and her throws continued to wildly go on until she knew for sure silence would follow her halt. Giovanni still stood, taking a quick glance at the impaled yokai and its revolting mess of blue blood it left behind. And before Noelle could throw her javelin of ice, he had already dispersed into the air. The ashes he left fell to the ground, living amongst the roots in the graveyard of yokai. Her hands went limp, shaking uncontrollably just like every other part of her body, and from there she could only scream into the sky. And once she lost her voice, her heart dropped, head spinning to find him. Careful in his movements, the father poked his head out from behind the tree, searching for an answer in his daughter's eyes. Noelle? So she has proven herself quite capable there. Well, as especially to protect her family. She didn't know how to act. He made the first move, rushing forward and taking her trembling face into his hands. Oh, sweetheart, it's okay. It's okay. It's just me. It's Dad. It's Daddy, he whispered, brushing the tangled stray hairs out of her face. Shh, it's okay. Just breathe, honey. Can you do that for me? In and out, like this. He demonstrated, but she couldn't find it in her to copy him, the dam finally breaking. Dad! In and out. Come on, baby, it's okay. It's... Her wails into his neck drowned out his guidance, and with his own shaky exhale, he held her as close as he could, his own eyes getting a little misty. You're alright. You're okay. You're okay, my sweet girl. In truth, she hadn't gotten physically hurt at all from the ambush. I didn't mean the turmoil wasn't there. She felt just about ready to collapse, leaning heavily onto her father for support, every sob quieter and more exhausted than the last. Sorry, she finally managed to mumble, finding it a little easier to breathe again. I'm sorry, Daddy. No, none of that. You have nothing to be sorry for. Momentarily freeing one of his arms, he shook off his jacket to wrap it around her, shaking his head at her apologies. Do you know who that was? Mm-hmm. She rushed to nod, clutching the fabric of his shirt until her knuckles turned white. The yokai from the... It was from the okay. Save your strength. Tell me later. His frown deepened, and with the two of them urgently wishing to leave, he pulled away to take her hand, leading her up the forest at a slow pace her wobbly legs could keep up to. She knew he couldn't guarantee their safety. Giovanni was still out there, after all, and the whole time spent walking through the woods, Noelle had her head turned. They'd soon meet the empty streets of East Pan, street lamps providing the thinnest veils of light, her heart rate slowing down. Then he'd appear by the trees, flashing Noelle a knowing smile, as if to tell her she'd already lost, and her breathing picked up again. Nosy, Harvey tried bringing out bring her out of that panic state, giving her frazzled body a break by carrying her instead. He wasn't the fittest, straining himself a bit, but he was willing to put up with it. For her. That piercing glare he'd already gotten used to was the last thing that yokai saw before Noelle was escorted away. The journey home felt like a millennium, and from it she found the time to talk. I don't want to be a yokai anymore. He blinked, taken out of his own thoughts. What makes you say that, honey? It couldn't be stopped now. She'd already opened the gate. She couldn't stop the flood. I wish I was normal, she murmured into his shoulder. I want to be normal. Then you can have your old Noelle back. The soft sounds of soles treading on the concrete halted, his mind swirling. I don't want that, though. There was hardly a reaction from her when he readjusted the jacket, shielding her from the incoming rain. There is no old Noelle. That's you, hun. That's current Noelle. And I don't care if she's not normal. I don't care if her hair's blue instead of brown, though. Now that's just... Struggling to form an answer right away, he sighed, giving her back a gentle pat. Okay, yes, it was a shock at first, but I wasn't focusing on the hair. I just got my daughter back. That's all I cared about. And besides, his voice lowered to a whisper, you still look the same as when you were little. Same blue eyes, same button nose, same laugh, and the same smile. As far as I'm concerned, the old Noelle's right here looking at me. A squeak left her mouth, tears starting to fall once more. She loved him more than anything. And no matter what Giovanni said, no matter how hard he tried convincing, it wouldn't work as well as he'd hoped. At least not entirely. Promise me you'll never go? His heart softened at that. I promise that, sweetheart. We already know it takes a lot more than death to keep us apart. So I doubt I'll be leaving you anytime soon. That could have chuckled out of her. Shut up. The house was just up ahead, Nadia waiting on the porch by an illuminating wall lamp. Noelle's father clicked his tongue. I'm not saying you should, but if you really want brown hair, I can get some dye for you. She thought about it. Maybe, was her current answer, and she pondered it for a long while after being carried back inside. Though, in the end, she wasn't too keen. She didn't need it. She was still their little Noelle either way. Yeah, I agree. She should definitely keep the blue hair. It's awesome. And we're on to chapter 12 now. Gonna have my usual drink before we continue. So chapter 12 is I'm Not Your Man. Summary. The twins reconcile, meeting Buck at his new yokai blaster, and with his parents' worries escalating, Nate is reminded of the time he wasn't Nate. Okay, that's an interesting little teaser there. Upon arrival, her mother was the first to greet them. Noelle! Taking a shuddering breath, Nadia rushed towards the two figures making their way up the few porch steps, placing a hand on her weary daughter's back. Sweetie, what happened? Are you alright? Nads. Shh. She's tired, her husband gently warned, stepping into the warm house, taking just one look at the staircase before softly groaning. Reluctantly, he lowered Noelle onto the floor, making sure she remained close as she looked to be on the verge of collapse. Come on, honey. Let's get you upstairs. One foot after the other. That's it. Nadia could only watch, crossing her arms over her chest at the sight of him assisting their daughter in ascending the stairs. She sensed it on him too, the exhaustion in his eyes. In truth, they were all tired, and above all Noelle was spooked, hardly able to get a word in without being ushered to the safety of her room. She'll give her time, her mother thought, returning to the kitchen to take it as a distraction. I think we should set up some more rules, Harvey sighed, running his fingers through his dampened hair, shaking out the rainwater. A few hours had passed by, most of those minutes spent soothing his daughter to sleep. The man now slouched on the living room sofa. He glanced over to his wife, who only hummed in response, busy with the dishes. Nadia, come here, love. I'll handle that later. Sorry, my brain's just, Sheepishly chuckling, she left the plates alone to return to him, taking a seat next to him on the couch. I'm all over the place today. You really need to rest more. Oh, shush, says you. She shook her head, smiling all the while, which softened with a quick peek into the hallway. How's she feeling? She murmured. Better? Yeah, yeah, looks like it. His head drooped. We had a talk. She was just being silly, saying she thinks she's not normal, saying we preferred when she was. He didn't mean to pause, coughing into his fist. When she was little. What? He nodded. I don't think she wants to talk about it anymore. Another thought erupted, his brittle nails sticking into his skin. And like I said, we'll give them both extra rules. Nate too. I mean, for goodness sakes, Nance, if I wasn't there. She watched him shudder, her own blood running cold. What happened? He wasn't entirely sure what he saw. It all happened so fast. Noelle's hasty attacks and fearful cries was all he could pay attention to. But he still saw something. A yokai, he gasped, recalling the conversation he had with her upstairs. There was another yokai with her. Some dead politician or something. Giovanni Hazeltine was the name she gave it. Nadia! The sentence barely ended before she rushed for the stairs, spotting her daughter sitting by the top. The girl was supposed to be asleep by this hour, yet here she was, listening into their conversation and ultimately getting caught. Huh? She croaked out, perking her head up to find her scaling the staircase. Nadia went in straight for an embrace, scrambling to check over her. Even with much faltering, Noelle still couldn't deny the affection, sniveling into her shoulder. You're definitely not hurt, are you? Mom, it's fine, she whined, still startled by the touchiness, her voice a little muffled with the way her mother cupped her cheeks. Dad already checked. Stop it. I'm just making sure, the woman croaked out, seldom hearing her husband getting closer behind her. She was smiling, unfortunately, so she plastered on a quick, serious frown, one only appropriate for the situations at stake. What did you hear? Dad said he was going to make more rules. And I'm deciding them, she continued. I don't want you going to that forest anymore, okay? Noelle blinked. What? But, no buts. There was no space to argue if her mother wouldn't allow it. Shaking her head, she softly grumbled under her breath. That damn bastard better not try anything again, or I swear to... Her unfinished words hung in the air, the woman looking down in defeat. Noelle felt like she could cry all over again. I'm sorry. No, I'm not blaming you, turning down her daughter once more. A small thud distracted them both before they could say anything else. Behind Nate's door, the lights were still on, a faint shadow blocking them as he stood to listen. I need to talk to him, Noelle murmured, standing up with trembling legs to take small steps to the room. It's all right, Harvey whispered to his wife once he got close enough, though her blood was still boiling. She wasn't kidding. Better watch yourself. But there was nothing she could do now. The two parents simply watching Noelle give a brief knock to the door, opening anyway despite a lack of an answer. Nate? She whispered, closing the door with a click once inside, finding him lying in bed instead of spying, headphones over his head turned to his side facing the wall. She couldn't even blame him for feigning irritation. Carefully, she took a seat at the edge of the bed, twiddling her thumbs. Mum said not to go to the forest anymore. Despite the music in his ears, it was mellow enough to let him hear her, only he didn't react for a while. Why? He eventually mumbled. I went there, and the yokai did too. Her voice was slow, any louder would inevitably crack. He's the yokai of the guy who died in that house fire. You know, the Giovanni guy I mentioned before. He's still out there. Her heart sank. And he tried talking to me. Tried saying some shit. But I wasn't listening. And then he tried to choke me and... He what? Terror filled Nate's eyes, the boy ripping off his headphones, his full attention given. He shifted to sit upright, close enough to now fully take in the marks of redness left from her previous tears. Noelle? He didn't... I didn't... let him. I'm fine, but... There were so many yokai and Dad showed up and I broke. I didn't want him to get Her, I. She couldn't stop it now. Shaking, heaving, hardly making a dent against the flood of emotions that crashed over her. But Nate wouldn't let her go through it alone. Even after all their quarrels, bickering, her jealousy and his carelessness, he wouldn't break that promise now. Not now, not ever. He won't abandon her. It's okay, he murmured, pulling her in for a gentle hug. I killed them. You okay? Whimpering into his shoulder, her fringe thrown over his flannel, all with a tight grip on his back. She still tried to spit it all out, get it all out of her system, all the while he hushed her and presented zero judgment. Maybe that was the reason she tended to cry. She was safe here with them, all of them. She was allowed to let it out. Still, it couldn't cure her feelings of pure shittiness. I'm sorry for being a jerk. It's fine if you're friends with Buck. It's cool. Shh, I'm not worried about Buck right now. His chin resting on top of her head, doing anything in his power to ensure she felt secure. It was a similar position he often experienced himself, being held in either of his parents' arms. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have ditched you for him like that. I'll make it up to you, okay? We can do whatever you want. He copied the subtle, steady rocking motion as well. With a shaky nod, she managed to crack a giggle. You're holding me just like Dad. Yeah? Nate mashed her own smile, flicking a few tears away from his cheeks. Want me to start singing as well? Like him? Oh, jeez, no, she snorted, her head shaking in protest. I hear you through the walls when you're playing your guitar. You can't sing for shit. Oi, I'm trying to help, you know. Blah. She got flicked on the forehead for that, eliciting a little laugh, and as it came to a close, the knock on the door spiked up instead. Hey, you two! Their mother's voice came first, their fathers arriving soon afterwards. Just checking in. He peeked into the room as well, smiling at the sight of them sitting side by side. Are you all good now? Wiping the rest of her tears away, Noelle still had a smile on her face, her voice a bit more uplifted now. Yeah, we're good. She raised a brow, her eyes still squinting. Why are you smiling? Oh, nothing. Oh, nothing. They only widened now with a grin, acting unsuspicious in the most suspicious way possible. Just now that you're friends again, we got an idea, she began, shifting closer to the window, the lights of the distant North Beach barely visible, popping out prominently into the dark sky. See that island north of the harbour? The twins both shifted off the bed, getting closer to also take a look. Hmm? They hummed in unison. They've got a fair there. You know, rides, Ferris wheels, roller coasters. She grinned, shooting a half-hearted glare at her husband. I would have gone with him, but I know damn well that he'd throw up. No, I'd be fine. He crossed his arms, his face only flushing harder as their amusement grew. Anyway, I think you two would have more fun. She smiled at the way their faces both lit up. This was needed, a distraction from it all, something to keep them away from the forest. Riding a roller coaster would be safer than crossing the bridge in East Pine. Have a think about it, and I can get you tickets. Okay? Aha! So we are going to the carnival. I said, I wonder if they're gonna go to the carnival. And and then Hazel was like, well. Still, the forest enticed them. The hell is she doing here? Damn, okay. I guess I'm not what? No, stay. Wait, is this yeah. Let me do that again now. I really realize who these characters are. The hell is she doing here? Damn, okay. Guess I'm not what? No, stay. Nate's hands grabbing his sister's hood prevented her from making a dramatic leave. A heavy groan huffing from her. Buck had narrowed eyes when it came to her, a defensive stance in his position, acting as the gatekeeper for the bridge that connected East Pine to the forest trail. He thought he made the rule very clear. No one else allowed, only Nate. But clearly, the brunette didn't get the memo. Why? What have you got to hide? Even when she was trying, Noelle still found it hard to give kindness to the boy, only to feign the slightest bit of respect. To be fair, he was making it difficult for her, and she swore she could feel her eyelid twitch. All those hordes of junk you've been stealing? You're hiding it all in the forest? I ain't stealing jack shit, he lied through his teeth. just about ready to shove her away when Nate stepped up. Buck, listen. He forced some space between the two to pause the feud, his voice low to prevent further frustration. She saw it, okay? The yokai. She knows who it is. The redhead blinked, nose wrinkling. Noelle? She squeaked, only to do it again once his rough head yanked the strings of her hoodie. You're gonna tell us everything you saw, alright? Everything. I am? She didn't have a choice, the strings acting as a leash as Buck's grip tightened, leading her to the secret base. Well, that worked, Nate mumbled to himself, not even meaning to sound sarcastic. Following along, he kept a close eye on the two, still trying to wrap his head around Buck's sudden compliance. The treehouse was soon in sight, the grumpy face Noelle put on, falling off in an instant. You built all this? Darn right, and I ain't going through the whole tour all over again. Buck sighed, finally letting go and immediately regretting it as she scurried off. Hey, don't go touching anything! He felt a tap on his shoulder, groaning as he turned to the cause. You sure you're fine with her knowing about the base? Nate frowned. Since you seem pretty strict about it being only me. Sorry, I shouldn't have. It's fine, I ain't needing your sob story. Buck shrugged, scratching his own scalp through the thick strands of hair. She says she knows a thing or two about the yokai, so... Nate only hummed an acknowledgement, shifting back and forth on his feet. It elicited a grin from Buck now, his chuckle breaking through his teeth. Yeah, relax, you idiot. You're still my favourite. Don't gonna mope now that she's here too. I'm not moping. It only made him laugh more, the brunette suffering from a light jab to the elbow before Buck made his way up to the base as well. His cheeks were rosy again. God damn it, his cheeks were rosy again. Always the same whenever Buck was there. Nate cleared his head before climbing up the treehouse as well, unfortunately unable to also calm his heartbeat. Aight, now spill it! Buck clasped his hands together, plopping down onto the squeaky couch while Noelle stayed standing. What is it you know? Giovanni Hazeltine, she immediately declared, both members of her audience stiffening in shock. It's him! He died from a house fire a few years back. Recognize the name? Buck cleared his throat, glancing down in thought. It's ringing a few bells here. Obviously, it was big news back then. If a fancy politician guy dies, it's going to get talked about. And they searched up some stuff about the case. Nobody has a clue how the fire started. This was just a refresher for Nate, and yet he still sat surprised and uneasy. Being reminded jolted a memory back into his life. I remember seeing it on the news. You what? You what? Both Noelle and Buck yelped in unison, staring at the boy with a silent request to continue. Hesitantly, he nodded, recounting everything he could remember. But that was at the very start, in the very first chapter. I think I was 5 or 6 at the time. I was sitting in the living room with Mum, reading a book, and she was watching the news. I can remember they showed the fire on TV. He fidgeted with the strap of his watch. It was so big. I was worried the news reporters would get swallowed by it or something. It was big. Huh? Did you see it too, Buck? Noelle raised a brow, giggling at her own stupid question. Ha, well, you live here, so yes, that's not surprising. Yeah, it ain't. Her chuckle was complemented by a forced one of his own. Damn thing could be seen from all Tway and Jukesville. Yeah, so what does this Giovanni guy want? Revenge? Nate suggested. Revenge? That's gotta be it, because yeesh, the temper he had when he was yapping to me last night. You only see that when someone's oozing for murder. Noelle would go on about it all night if she wanted to, her shoes striding back and forth across the room. She spoke whatever came to her mind. As much as he wanted to listen, and how important this was in the first place, Nate still drifted his attention to Buck, who only had eyes for the strange gun on the shelf. He interrupted his sister's tangent. Did you manage to work out what that is? Somewhat, Buck murmured, already heading for the door with the gun in hand. I had to practice more, actually. Y'all keep trying to figure out this yokai thing, aight? Practice? Nate's confusion left him with a closed door, the sound of Buck's boots treading down the ladder and on the grass, fading away. At least he isn't calling yokai aliens anymore. I guess. Truthfully, that was the least of Nate's concerns. The gun had slipped his mind. Buck was going to practice? Did that mean it was loaded? Was it even safe? Well, The fact that the redhead hadn't been blown to pieces yet meant that he at least somewhat knew what he was doing. If he was skilled enough, that meant another means of both offense and defense. Not that Nate wanted to fight, it was just another safety precaution in case this Giovanni was to show up again. You want to follow him, don't you? Nate clicked his tongue, pressing his lips firmly together for a sheepish smile. Just to make sure he doesn't get hurt. Aight, now go! Mrr. At his command, unified by a loud bang, the cat pounced towards the affected area. A previous tower of stone saw crumble to bits. His teeth made a vain attempt at digging into one of the rocks, hissing at the stubborn surface, and Buck was quick to act. Hey, I never said eat. You're supposed to attack, you know, with your claws and stuff. He grumbled, picking up the cat by the scruff and giving him a disapproving look. Well, you got the reaction time down, at least. Buck? Redhead nearly jumped out of his skin. Cancel! He seethed, whirling his head around to find Nate fidgeting, standing by one of the many trees that circled the small clearing. Nate. Buck acknowledged his arrival, digging his hand into a pocket and throwing it a nod. Yeah, you like sneaking up a lot, don't you? Sorry. The gun in Buck's hand couldn't go unnoticed, no matter how hard he tried hiding it behind his baggy overalls. You're practicing? Ah, sure enough. I think I got it. With a slight confidence boost, he tried spinning the weapon around his finger, jumping as it inevitably fell to the ground. There's different modes, he coughed, hiding the embarrassed flush as he crouched down to pick it back up. They successfully held back his laugh. Modes? Yep. You see here? Noelle appeared too, exchanging a silent glare with Buck, and he continued this explanation after a brief pause. See this dial? Go from numbers 1 to 9, 1 being the weakest and 9, well, the strongest, Extending his arm out, he used the gun to point to another small tower of rocks, barely held upright due to the hushed winds. If you're shot when the dial's at 1, it ain't gonna do much. Maybe knock you out for a bit. And how do you know that? Noel raised a brow. He sat in his teeth. Man, I shot a tree and the bullet bounced right back at me. You what? Hey, easy, quit your hollering. He had to laugh, raising his arms to show off a bandage wrapped by his elbow. I'm alive, ain't I? Yeah. Woke up a few hours later, I'm sure. Only 'cause Gummy here was demanding food. Right. So, how'd you get the bullets? Went to the store and bought some. They actually believed it for a second, obvious by the way he grimaced, and out came Buck's chuckle again. I'm pulling your leg. The country ain't that busted, you idiot. Wow. I mean, things have gotten quite a bit worse for America, which PPQ is based off now. Nah, it's always loaded somehow. Twisting his hand up and around, his squinted eyes searched around the outside of the weapon. I don't think there's a way to crack it open and see. Mrrr. What, you moron? Turning to the cat's bad teeth, Buck sneered. Hungry again, huh? Aye, I'll fetch you something in a sec. I'll do it, Noelle volunteered, already walking over to scoop Gummy up into her arms. Hey, easy on him. What you doing that for? She rolled her eyes. I don't want to get blown to pieces by that thing, and besides... Her face flipped entirely, grinning at the feline. He's only the cutest little kitty ever. Oh, maybe you should come out with me? Yeah. No. Leaves crunched under his boots. He took a few hefty steps, making sure to give her a strong shove. You're feeding them, and that's that. Shove above the record player, got it? He paused. And give him some strawberries. He likes the strawberries. He does? Nate chirped, meeting Buck's wide eyes with a smile. Sure he does. Damn pest goes nuts for him. He scratched the back of his neck, talking to the forest wall. Ever since you gave him some, back when I was acting like a jackass. Buck, it's okay. I'm sorry for that, he murmured, about to go on a full tangent. Y'all only wanted to help, and I was being difficult, and Nate wouldn't let him know, patting his forearm. I said it's okay, didn't I? Light-heartedly, he let his eyes roll. It's all right. I forgive you. To reassure him further, slowly, his hand trailed down to intertwine with his, giving it a gentle squeeze. Buck's breath hitched. I believe you, he stammered, flicking his hand away and stepping to the side, jokingly pointing the gun to random spots tucked away in the forest. Anyway, that yoke ain't gonna mess with me anytime soon. Not if I have this. He's still worried about it? Worried? Yeah, Nick nodded, plopping himself down to sit atop a large rock. I mean, it looks like you come to the base a lot. You have to. You got food for Gummy in there. Yeah, it's easy enough. Ain't too far from home, so. He shrugged. I got a weapon now. If the senator guy tries anything, I'll shoot him dead. Pow! He made a motion with the gun. Like that. You knew he was a senator? Do what? Oh, obviously. He was famous, wasn't he? Yeah. Out of nervous habit, Nick checked his watch as if the orange sky weren't enough of an indicator. The irritating buzzing from his phone was also the last straw. Sorry, I should probably go home. Dinner will be ready soon. Buck slip straightened. Yeah, I won't keep you. He clicked his tongue, an idea popping into his head. Come back tomorrow, alright? I want to show you something. Show me what? You'll see, his grin returned, copied by Nate. For a moment, the brunette's gaze remained on Buck, those few seconds short-lived as he turned to walk away. Hey! Stopping in his tracks, Buck gestured to the gun. You think I should give this a name or something? Like, I don't know, the Yokai Blaster or whatever? Yokai Blaster? Nate cracked his grin once more. That sounds stupid. It ain't. Y'all get used to it. The redhead laughed, giving a quick small wave to him before he disappeared beyond the trees, making a quick stop at the base to fetch Noelle and drag her home. It wouldn't really be called the Yokai Blaster. He knew it was dumb. He just wanted an excuse to see Nate smile again. He cursed himself. Damn it, Nate. Damn you and your smile. A smile that would charm and haunt Buck forever. He was watching, after all. He knew he was. When Buck lost track of the amount of times he looked over his shoulders on the way back, knuckles turning white from the iron grip he had on the gun. Nadia wasn't going to let them off the hook. And where have you two been? Their arrival couldn't possibly go unnoticed, both kids having a cheek held by their frazzled mother. You don't pick up your phones now? We were busy, Noelle insisted right off the bat, shifting to a more apologetic tone. Sorry, but it's not even that late. I know that, but... A huff left her, last night still weighing on her mind. Without a solid answer, she watched her daughter head upstairs without an argument, Nate about to do the same, but she held him back. I'm not done. Is that dirt on you? Startled, Nate flinched back when she suddenly scrubbed his cheek with her palm, and without much of a thought, he grabbed her wrist to push it away. Oh, it's nothing. Instead, her hand moved to cup his cheek. Did anything happen? What? No, we were just with Buck. Where? The forest? She slightly raised both her brow and voice. The forest where the yokai is? We didn't see him, Nate murmured, clenching his free fist. It's fine. We weren't even gone that long. Yeah, but something could have... He finally sat. Mum, it's fine. Taken aback, she forced her hand away. We didn't see or hear him, okay? I'm here, aren't I? Dumb silence filled the hallway. Nate searching his mother's eyes for any hint of a response. Whatever to yell, to apologize, to make a deal, anything. Nothing. She couldn't find what to say, and while grumbling under his breath, he escaped to the stairs as well. I'm not 5 anymore, was all she could faintly discern, hiding her face in her hands once the boy retreated. It wasn't like Nate to yell. Growing up like Glass, treated fragile and with meager arguments, he wasn't exposed to environments with raised voices. He didn't need to raise his own. Problems were solved rationally, comfort was given when needed, but inevitably seeped into the grey area of his own feelings. He was supposed to be strong, wasn't he? Not seen as some scared, scrawny little boy. Sometimes he found it difficult to even see that. Sometimes he wondered if his parents did too. He could retire to his room now, the door right in front of him, though his tendency to be curious never died out. Water was running from the sink, the boy glancing into that room instead, and what he found wasn't a shock. His father was usually this tired during the evening, and here he was splashing water onto his face in an attempt to wake up properly. While it was the norm, Nate's concern never lessened. Dad? Harvey's head raised, nearly hitting the sink's tap on the way up. An automatic smile appearing under his weary eyes. Hey, hon. Something up? You look exhausted, Nate stated bluntly, taking note of the doctor's coat as he must have carelessly shrugged off onto the tile floor. He forced a quiet laugh. Well, I just got home. I haven't sat down yet. Half his sentence was muffled by the towel as he dried his face, but Nate still heard him loud and clear. It was the same excuse every time. Don't worry about it. Nate's cheek got pinched, unreacted for a moment, but as soon as he turned away, his face morphed to a grimace. It was understandable, really. At the end of the day, he was their child. Of course they treat him as such. What with the teasing and the mannerisms and unconditional love. But he'd grown up to believe it to be conditional. Especially now in the new setting where he was vulnerable more than ever. Growing more than ever. Exploring new opportunities for the first time in a while. Last time it happened, it felt like forever ago. But it glued to his memory as much as any other major event he'd gone through in his damned life. How the previous him had finally broken. The first time he'd allowed himself to cry in years. His parents took it as a blessing more than anything. They feared he'd be numb forever. She'd be numb forever. And now they regressed, their fears reborn with these new, fresh, agonizing feelings he had to suppress. All of it sent him spiraling. Yeah, I figured with the way the title was, no, sorry, the summary was teasing it. This would be something to do with Nate's gender identity. He left without a word, escaping to his initial destination, and with the door shut and a collapse into the bed, he screamed into the pillow. Should I cut my hair? Glancing up from his scribbling, Buck made a face, scanning the brunette's locks. Do what? I don't know, I was just thinking. On the other hand, while Buck now seemed hyper-focused on Nate, he himself had to look away, already regretting his question. Maybe it's too long. Like, it'll make people confused. Confused? Buck scoffed, shaking his head as he returned to his scribbling, the blunt pencil scratching against the scrap paper on the floor. You ain't making a lick of sense. I'd be more confused if you suddenly showed up to my door one day with a buzz. Not a buzz cut, just a trim. Like I said, I don't know. Picking at the skin around his nail, staring off into space, he took another heavy sigh. I mean, confused as in people thinking I'm a girl. The base went quiet for a long moment. A long, long moment up until Buck erupted into laughter. Now that's got to be one of the stupidest things he ever said. He grinned, shaking his head as a teasing jar. You're obviously a boy. Your name's Nate. You got a boy name. You got a boy voice, albeit a little higher than most, but still boy-like. Ain't nothing girly about it. His nose stung, that familiar prickle that willed him to cry. No way would he let himself break down now. Though, not with Buck right here and oblivious to the full truth. How would he feel then, if he knew? Nate hated himself for even thinking of such a thing, but it came natural to him. Already he could tell. He knew how some people in St. Petersburg were loud about their beliefs. The whole of BBQ were that way, it seemed, from this small bit of research and many overheard stories spouted by the news. Deep down, he hoped Buck was different. He was different in more ways than one, and Nate could only pray it included something like this. Still, like always, his nerves won over, and he returned to the safety of his shell. Yeah, it's stupid. You're right. Subject changer, find a subject changer. You're even drawing. Drawing? I'm writing, look. Scooting closer, Buck wafted the paper in front of him, messy handwriting and quick shaped scrawl onto the sheet. I'm only jotting it down now because I already got it memorized. This here is... Finally, his bottom lip stopped trembling. Morse code? Buck beamed. You know it? I know it exists, but I haven't memorized it or anything. His shoulders hunched. Darn. Well, okay, now you're gonna learn it. He turned his head in all sorts of directions, Nate holding back a comment or chuckle about how a leaf fell out in the process. Finding a suitable object, a long twig, he used it as a pointer, aggressively tapping at the letters on the paper. Some smart-ass ages ago made it up to send messages to folk far away. Hardly anyone bothers to learn it anymore, you know. Y'all got phones and stuff now. You don't need this. Processing that, Nate slowly nodded, taking a glance at the assortments of dots and dashes. The fuzz in his mind was already starting to form. Is this what you wanted to show me? Yes, sirree. Stage one of my plan. His tone made it sound more revolutionary than it was, but to him, it was crucial. This yokai guy, he started, shifting to a more comfortable sitting position, playing with the intact strap of his overalls. I think if he tries anything, like, if he gets one of us stuck in a corner, we're gonna learn Morse code so we still have a way of talking. So, we won't know what we're telling each other? He won't know what we're telling each other? Exactly, he nodded. Nobody needs Morse code anymore, so barely anyone remembers it off by heart. I only know because I was bored. It made sense. Nate raising his brows and humming in the back, humming in an acknowledgement to confirm his understanding. But something stood out. Most people know SOS though, and if he's got one of us trapped, then that'll be the first thing we'll say. Easy, simple solution, like this. Snatching the paper, Buck's finger traced across specific letters as Nate's eyes followed. They went to so to ensure he could grasp onto it. H is 4 dots. Oh, to spell help. So E is just 1 dot. You catch on fast. And L is a dot, a dash, and then 2 more dots. And P is a dot, 2 dashes, and another dot. Glad to see you able to read. Buck already laughed at the soft punch to the arm, making a quick revenge quick with a ruffle of the hair. Think you can at least remember that? 4 dots, 1 dot, dot, dash, dot, 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 dash, dash. I'm already lost. Well, duh. You gotta read it more than once, you idiot. He smirked, beckoning for him to take the scrap paper. Read over at least once for the next time I see you, alright? Okay, I will. Nate didn't have a choice, really. At least his homework looked more sufferable than anything he got from school. Only had a stricter lecturer as the catch. He should be a teacher or something. Psh! Cut the ball. The kids will all be crying, he murmured, and shut up at the clusters of notes, string, photos, and more that covered the weary walls. A gown better suited for detective work. Or an astronaut. You like space? Ain't got the money for that. Ah, well, detectives are still cool. Especially since you know Morse code, you can decipher secret messages and stuff. He continued without thinking. And you can send me secret messages and I can try to figure out. Both their mouths snapped shut. Nate gritted his teeth. Why did he say that? He's assuming they'll still be close then in 10 or 20 years? Really? That's a long way, you know. Buck broke the silence. Being adults, I mean. Yeah, I know that. Just in case. Nate stammered, retreating to the comfort of staring down at the floor. He caught himself doing that a lot more recently, especially around him. Buck had to look away as well, his expression unreadable. Hi, then let's start now. Turning back, he flashed a prominent grin. I'm giving you 1 week to make a secret message on a Morse code. I'll try to figure it out. I'll do the same for you. Really? He wasn't opposed to that idea, albeit it sounded a little silly. With a little more thought, he decided to agree. Why not? Okay, so exactly 1 week. And he did think about it. Hard. In truth, the secret message was obvious to him. Caused a nag in the back of his head and itch under his skin. And it'd be easy to express it through simple dots and dashes, rather than inevitably ending up a stammering mess when speaking aloud. He couldn't ignore the obvious truth anymore. His denial wasn't impenetrable. Meanwhile, for Buck, he knew exactly what message he wanted to give too. He had to. Though, as obvious as it sounded, as natural as he wanted it to be, he knew he'd chatter. He knew the danger, personally, and it was lurking close. And the last thing he wanted was to become it. He'd be better off choosing a dumb message instead. Somewhat. Either way, it'd break him. Sometimes he wondered if he'd already been figured out. Nate was all he had. It should be obvious. And if he were to find out, it'd all be torn apart. Got a nice little bit of intriguing setup there with the secret messages. Chapter 13, To My Younger Years. Summary. To find out more about both the UFO and the yokai, Buck proposes an idea to make adventuring easier. Okay. We're on with the quest. This here should be everything we need. Rather dramatically, Buck swished a large blanket of tarp away and onto the grass, revealing an extensive pile of logs. Neither of the twins could quite figure out what he was insinuating, giving each other a confused glances before sharing them with the redhead as well. This is gonna. I read the summary and I was like, is this gonna be something different? Or yeah, this is gonna be the same thing that they decide to do in Yokai Watch 3, which is what Buck's about to say. For what? Nate dared to ask first, which Buck snorted as if it should be obvious. Why, for travelling, of course. We're going to build ourselves a raft, he declared, stepping out from under the treehouse. He mainly used that area for storing all the junk he found, like stuffing belongings under a carpet to make the illusion that a room was clean. Yep, there's like a whole minigame in Yokai Watch 3, which is riding a raft down a river. It's very fun. Now standing out in the open, eyeing the wide river, his voice raised itself to ensure they both heard him over the distance. Way faster than walking, I'm sure. We can go anywhere. You know how to drive a boat? Noelle raised a brow to her brother. He just shrugged. I can barely even swim. Hey! They both jumped, Buck's short temper coming in full force, the boy trudging back towards them. Are you in or nah? In, yes, but where would we even go? Nate frowned, his next words drowned out by Noelle's common sense. And shouldn't we be focused on the psychotic yokai roaming around town? Ha! Per l'amor de Dio! He huffed instantly, giving a quick glance to the trees to check if he could spot his girlfriend up there. Wait there. And off he went, scrambling up the first ladder to the base's main room, ascending the next one further up that led to the watchtower. The UFO, damn it! You said that's where the yokai come from? We need to get there. And I don't suppose y'all are willing to walk there on foot? Noelle's eyes twitched. The UFO? The one sitting miles away while the actual inhabitant of it had already arrived in town? And not to mention her brother. Nate, are you sure about that? It's okay, he shrugged. Not a single speck of bother showed on his features. She furrowed her brows, the boy quickly continuing to empathize. I mean, the yokai's a threat now, isn't it? And maybe the UFO will give some hints. Still, she was skeptical, blinking at an idea that popped into her head. She had to test the integrity, of course. So, Buck, how do you suppose we built this raft? You're not a builder, are you? I literally told you before that I built the secret base, he huffed, sliding down the watchtower's ladder to land on the roof, dangling his legs over the edge in a smug fashion. And yeah, boats are another thing, because they can sink. Looking for us, I know just the place to go. Oh, really? She was teasing him on purpose now, exchanging a grin just as sickening as his own. And where's that? A great thud slammed against the wooden planks once Buck jumped down from the roof, both twins getting a bit of a fright. After descending the last ladder, falling to the grass, his hands were on hips as he approached. There's a boathouse up over North Beach, he explained. Went there once. Tons of manuals for this sort of thing. Yeah, this is probably the part that's aligned most with how it went in the games, although it was a different third. Hold on. Yeah, they go to the boat shop first in the third game. And they also have to go and grab some supplies from the forest, but obviously he's already got logs here, so skipping that part of the quest. Turning to Nate, his grin returned. Nate, you stay here and come with a raft design, okay? Me and Noelle over here are gonna fix for that manual. Noelle? Her mouth hung open, which only fueled Buck's laugh further, the raspy chuckles echoing through the trees as he already started walking away, making a quick stop at the treehouse to apparently grab something. Son of a fucking Nate, stay here. Okay, he squeaked, holding in his own giggles once she tried to chuckle like that, digging his hands into his pockets. Better find some paper and pens then. It's interesting. We're gonna get some Buck and Noelle time. Maybe get over each other's hang-ups with each other, or maybe just infuriate each other more. With it being a Saturday, North Beach was especially busy today. Many families and tourists gathered by the harbour to gawk at the several boats coming and going. A lone shed stood by the shops on the shorefront, which captured Buck's full focus from the bush he was hiding in. See that building? He whispered, pointing to it to grab Noel's attention as well. You can hire boats from there. They make you read a manual for them, though, so you don't die or anything. She crossed her arms, more so amused by the stupid alien hoodie he brought with them, the antenna flailing around as he pulled the hood over his head. Do I look like I have the money to buy a boat? We ain't buying one. And keep your voice down. It's just the instructions that we need, he hissed. This is already basically going like it did in the game, except Noelle instead of Nate. A plan was already formulated in his head, and with a quick hand gesture, he forced Noelle to crouch down beside him. You're gonna distract him while I go in to get the manual. How? He quickly scanned the area, searching for anything that could work. Those kayaks, it turned to him. Knock them down with your eyes. What? Just do it. Appalled enough already, she frankly had enough of having to listen to him. So with a frustrated grumble and a reluctant movement, she walked closer to the boathouse, feigning nonchalance in her strides. The small boats stacked on top of each other by the exterior's wall. Off to the side, unable to bring in much attention. For now, anyway. A loud crash might do it. Oh no, those kayaks look loose, she sarcastically mumbled, and with a swift slash of ice she quickly formed, the rope snapped. What in tarnation? Beard snapped out of his sleep with a loud crash right outside. The boathouse owner came running out to be the first to the scene. The fallen kayaks lifted onto the sidewalk. Noelle made sure to get out of there fast, slipping behind the building and holding her breath. From there, Buck made his move. A few curls still poking out from under the bed, which the boy patted down as he stuck into the boathouse. With the public and good Samaritans focused on fixing the mess outside, this was his only chance, and he silently scanned the interior for any bookshelves or other furniture that could house the manual. Luckily for him, the interior was distinct in sections, a wooden platform standing in the corner, keeping all the storage. He wasted no time, skipping a few steps while scampering up the stairs, and as soon as he was close enough, he began rummaging through the shelves. Amidst the chaos outside, Noelle returned to their previous hiding spot, barely able to peek into the building through the large door. Come on, Buck. When the situation outside calmed, the kayaks returned to their positions. Buck nearly jumped out of his skin. Hey, kid! Heavy footsteps trudged up the stairs. The boy crouched, frozen in fear. What do you think you're doing? Hey, I'm talking to you. Stay back! As soon as a large hand reached for his shoulder, he spun around faster than light itself, pointing a shaking hand at the man, the OK blast aiming directly for his head. He didn't know what he was doing. He could have cooperated, apologized, and maybe by the end of it, he could borrow the manual if he was lucky. But that natural instinct chained him, the need for violence flowing in his blood. I'm warning you! The man scoffed, taking a step back despite his belief. The hell are you doing? That's a toy, ain't it? Buck still didn't lower the gun, swelling a heavy lump in his throat. Ain't it? The owner whispered, slowly raising his hands in vulnerability. Panicking, Buck flicked the blaster to the side, the muzzle aiming for the wall. A loud bang followed, Noelle instinctively ducking. What the... From there, a familiar alien hoodie came rushing out. A thin Buck clutched in his hand. Buck? Come on! He strenuously ordered, his grip on the hood that covered his face so hard it could rip. If Nate knew anything, it was that he could cross off being an architect for potential job opportunities. How the hell was he supposed to design a raft? He was inexperienced, just like Noelle, and as far as he was aware, Buck had no idea what he was doing either. But with the instruction manual, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. Building, that is. Designing a raft that wouldn't sink was a whole other challenge on its own. Balls of crumpled paper littered the base's floor. Gummy jumping down from his usual spot by the windowsill to play with them. That's not edible, Nate murmured, shaking his head at the cat's insistence on gnawing at the paper. He seemed to try devouring anything he could find, all the dents and marks staining the lower walls, and the frequent scars Nate usually swatted on Buck's wrists. Yeah, that's the... Anyone who has cats or interacts with cats in any way can relate to that, definitely. He set up with a basic design, a stereotypical boat, parallel logs tied together at the bottom, just enough to keep them balanced, but not too much to be heavy, but a silly looking pole standing upright with the flag they could design later. Some stick figures atop the raft were also quickly conjured up as well. A tall one with a messy orange scrub of hair, a shorter one with slightly neater hair, this time brown, another one around the same height as the brunette, only this time with a blue ponytail. It was a lazy drawing, yes. But the design itself was practical. Maybe a grunt or scoff from Buck, but it was better than nothing. It'd be a while until they got back, he predicted. And in his boredom, with the struggling phone service out here in the woods, the content of the base were apparently the most interesting things in the world at the moment. Some of them actually were quite interesting. Deep down, he felt guilty for being enamored by it all, or everything most likely being stolen, but it never stopped his bewilderment at some parts. For example, what did he need 5 large jars of pasta for? Being a picky eater? Preparing for a zombie apocalypse? Truthfully, everything was mostly junk. Nate didn't want to imagine when Buck cleaned here last, if at all. Somehow the clutter didn't surprise him. The record player did instead. It was rather dusty, blending in with multiple storage boxes stuck by its side, though underneath all of its actual condition was spotless. Must have been his prized possessions, Nate assumed. He even searched for fingerprints, which should be inevitable given Buck's usually dirty hands, though there was hardly a stain in sight. A vinyl was already left to the side, and after a bit of struggling, Nate figured out how to play it from where it was last left off. But I'll pray for you all the time. If I could be by your side, I'll give you all my life, my... Gummy? Hey! Nate quickly got distracted from the soothing, sorrowful melody. The orange cat demandingly bumping his head into his knee. Hungry again? He softly asked, returning to stand on his feet. Oh, I think I'm reading about the cat. My cat wants to leave the room, so I'll quickly open the door. Probably wants to go and mooch around for some food, if I had to guess. Hungry again? He softly asked, returning to stand on his feet. Shelf above the record player, he remembered Buck telling that to Noelle, and lo and behold, the cat food was sitting there waiting. He got straight to work on preparing it, not without adding some strawberries, of course, the small tub of them beside the standard box of cat food nearing its expiration date. Half his mind still listened to the song that gently played in the background, humming along to the second half, so he quickly memorized how it went. He wasn't sure which band it was, despite enjoying similar genres, so this was a nice change. Especially since he assumed Buck would be into some weird old country music for whatever reason. Hey! Nate nearly jumped out of his skin, head jerking to the door. Hi. What are you doing with the record player? Buck hissed, his already red face burning bright by the second. Anyway, we got the manual, he announced, scrambling to turn off the music, still refusing to look at Nate. It's a nice song. Shut your trap. No, it ain't. Come on, let's build this raft. So, Buck, a little embarrassed maybe to be into that kind of music. Or so, maybe because it reminds him of his time with his family. If it was something he took from the mansion before he escaped or something. I don't know. Or something that was not damaged by the fire that he got. They must have been sitting there for hours. Being his usual bossy self, and apparently the one with the most experience, Buck took control of the assigned jobs they all had. With his sharp icicle in hand, one of many before it, Noelle sanding down the plank they'd used for the oar, until her legs felt numb from sitting for so long. Quit your grumbles, you got the easy part. Buck got a glare for that. So everyone right back at her, and he once again studied the basic drawing as a design for what felt like the millionth time. We need to make it wider. Helps the balance, you see. I was interested in making use of the powers, because in the game they have to look for they find a piece of wood that just so happens to be the right shape to pretty easily make into an oar. Obviously, it's not quite so lucky, although they do just can't just use yokai powers. Well, we've got more than enough logs, Nick quietly mumbled, his face scrunched up at the sight of the mess below, the rope in his hands refusing to cooperate no matter how hard he tried. And of course, Buck's watchful eyes caught on to that. You don't know how to tie. You don't know how to tie a knot. I do, but it's not strong enough. You're impossible, he huffed, though thankfully to Nick he sounded more amused than annoyed, an assumption accompanied by the slight smirk under his freckles. I watch. In a blink, Buck crouched right down by Nate's side, resulting in a squeak from the brunette's hand. Buck raised a brow, clicking his tongue before getting to work anyway, gently taking the boy's wrist. Like this, see? Slowly, he guided Nate's hands together as he gripped onto the rope, taking it for himself whenever it wasn't cooperating. From there, a firm knot formed, tying two logs tightly together. Buck grinning at their success. There, you got it. Nate's stupid stare wiped the smile clean off. What? Buck blinked. Nothing, Nate stammered, his voice higher-pitched than usual. An excuse formed out of thin air. Your hands are cold, he stated, already refusing to gently pry them away from his wrists, holding them properly instead. It was funny, the difference between them. Buck's hands obviously showed some signs of wear and tear, with some scars deeper than others, and overall giving his skin a more callous feel. And even when Nate played guitar, his own hands remained relatively soft. The warmth was there too, which transferred to Buck, and quickly. You're such a moron, Buck snorted, leaving that warmth to jokingly push his face away, his palm knocking into Nate's nose. Just keep tying your knots, alright? I'll be back. Need see if there's any forageables nearby. Letting him go, Nate's fingers began fidgeting with themselves, boiling out a chuckle once Buck was far enough. He forced himself to keep his head down, unsure where else to look, a strange yet welcome feeling lingering in his chest. Noelle's eyes squinted, the girl still absent-mindedly standing down the plank. Nate caught onto her stare for a split second, immediately looking away in further embarrassment, pretending to be busy tying the logs together. What was that about? Buck questioned that himself once deep enough into the woods. His head hung low in shame, body leaning against the trees and was the only thing keeping him somewhat upright. He was just warming me up, he murmured to himself. It was cold. He was being nice. Is that it? That voice creaked up again, the one that had been nagging him for God knows how long. He yawned. I swear, that's all. It ain't like that. You swear? He wanted to punch it into oblivion, anything to send it away. But with shaking limbs and a shrinking figure, sinking deeper into a hole he'd dug out for himself, destined to rot there, he knew he was powerless. He couldn't keep running from those flames forever. Still, that didn't mean he couldn't try. Buck hissed through gritted teeth. I promise. Yep, we'll be back soon. Noelle grinned, her phone raised up to her ear as she mindlessly paced outside the treehouse. Sunset had soon arrived, and as such, she was only expected to either her or Nate would get a text or call. With their mother's spiraling worry as of late, no wonder she went with the more urgent option. Oh, is Dad back yet? He said we played Mario Kart later. Nate! Nearly finished, he sighed, his muscles tensed up as he held the mask for Buck, with the redhead hammering it into the logs below. I think. Buck, how much longer? Whoosh! You're distracting me, he groaned without a reply, one eye screwed shut to get a better view of the nails. They just rolled his eyes light-heartedly. Buck had been so laser-focused on the raft for so long, he was convinced it was starting to rile him up. That, and one more move and Buck would get sent straight to hospital. There. Should be steady now, he grunted, taking off the sunglasses perched on his face to wipe the sweat off his forehead, taking more steps back than he had needed to admire their craftsmanship. Thick logs covered up the base of it, the light oar resting by the reeds, and the mast held a white paper flag as they had yet to come up with a design. Sweet! I'll brush it up a little, and we can take it out for a test voyage tomorrow or something. Sounds good, Nick nodded, Noelle's foot impatiently tapping the grass, catching his eye. Okay, we're going now. Finally. Okay, we're going now. Finally! Mum said it's fajitas tonight, she grinned, taking one last look at the raft. Same time tomorrow then, is it? On the other hand, Buck's glee was conflicted. Yes, sirree. Same time. It didn't go unseen by Nate, as the redhead awkwardly shifted his weight from one foot to the other, only stopping once he'd been caught. Can you stay out a little longer? Huh? I want to show you something. Oh, sure. Sheepishly turned to his sister. Nate silently pleaded for the go-ahead, to which she simply shrugged. Fine, but don't be too late, or I'm stealing your fajitas. You leave them out of this. She just chuckled at that, giving Buck a brief nod before turning on her heel, leaving the woods. Slowly, she was warming up to him. Slowly! Part of her wanted to reject the plan and drag Nate home with her, even if she had to do it by the ankles, but she couldn't risk another argument. After all, this was the best thing for him. The way he looked at Buck was almost enough to make her smile, too. The forest was much larger than Nate expected. It was clear to outsiders that it ran all the way to sea, sure, but it covered a lot of the area down south as well, even making it past the farmland. It was like a barrier between the town and the prairie, separating the two with a shield of leaves. It was mostly trees that accompanied them, save for the odd boulder here and there, the soothing sound of the river flowing making a nice hum. It'll be some time before they encounter something out of the ordinary. Here, come on! They found an old railway, and Buck was the first to act upon it, stepping up onto one of the joints. Then he put his own caution first. But what if a train comes? Yeah, ain't no trains coming here. See how rusty these nails are? Buck sneered, putting matters into his own hands and grabbing Nate by the wrists. Okay. They each took one parallel rail, the last experience of the two taking a moment to catch his balance. Buck's hands always reached out in case he needed them. Is this what you wanted to show me? Nate huffed breathlessly. Buck sounded almost offended. No, I didn't take you out here to see just some dingy old railway, he snorted, decided to help him out by clutching onto his wrist once more. Soon Nate found his balance, chuckling softly. Just like Max and Chloe. Buck blinked. Who? Oh, never mind. With his cheeks burning even hotter, Nate had to look away, freeing his hand in an attempt to walk by himself. Of course, the boy still shook a little atop the thin rail, but by some miracle he never fell off entirely. I'm not sure who Max and Chloe are, to be honest. I don't recall if they are your couch characters. I don't recall them. Maybe we'll find out. Maybe they're people from Nate's past, but that weren't in the games. I don't know. Oh, never mind. With his cheeks burning even hotter, Nate had to look away, freeing his hand in an attempt to walk by himself. Of course, the boy still shook a little on top of the thin rail, but by some miracle he never fell off entirely. Just keep following the track, Buck instructed, following closely behind and staying vigilant. Knowing Nate, he'd probably make one wrong step and suddenly topple over, so he stayed prepared for that. I'll let you know when we're close. Okay. Slowly but surely, the journey across the rail got progressively easier as Nate got the hang of it. Sure, it was optional. It'd be much quicker to simply walk on the grass like any normal person, but Nate was up for the challenge. And Buck just wanted to show off, even hopping on one foot. Am I supposed to be impressed? Are you? Buck's grin widened, taking it further by hopping backwards instead. Maybe. Even when Nate rolled his eyes, he couldn't deny it was pretty cool. Sometime later, when the light blues of the sky faded to orange, Buck stopped them just before a short bridge over a low river. Aye, this way. With the route diverted, Nate curiously followed along, ensuring he'd stay a good distance away from the cliff above the water. It was, annoyingly, an uphill trek, and it was obvious he was out of breath far quicker than Buck. Thankfully, the walk didn't last long. Here! Nate's eyes widened at the sight before him. The river had to start somewhere, and here they were, staring right at a large waterfall gushing out an endless stream, the water sparkling to complement the sunset. Pretty. Oh, yeah? Buck's smile widened, and he quickly flicked his sunglasses onto his eyes, stepping closer. That ain't all there is, you know. It appeared he was trying to remind himself of the route, peeking through the potential gaps until he eventually found one. From there, Buck made a gesture to usher Nate beyond the flowing water, slipping behind it. Okay, I'm trying. I think there was an area with a waterfall you can go in your culture. I can't remember for sure though. But definitely know where you could get by walking. I don't think. This is a secret base. The first one. Behind the waterfall sat a shallow cave, the sunlight struggling to slip inside. Nate raised a brow, turning back to him. The first one? Yeah, guess so. But kicked a small stir into the water, his smile neutralizing a little as a wave of nostalgia hit him. I used to hide here sometimes, when things were rough back home. Oh, Nick frowned, taking a seat atop the solid surface. It was a good hiding spot, he couldn't lie. Distance was the issue, though. They were about a mile away from town. How old was Buck when he was hiding you? Is it better now? Hmm? He blinked. Yeah, it's better, obviously. I don't need to come here anymore, do I? Nick copied his awkward chuckle. Guess not. Sorry, that was a stupid question. Nah, you're good. Buck shook his head. Nate seemed to be searching the whole cave as if to find little remnants of the past. He remained dead, though, untouched for years, and it was a while until he turned back to Buck again. Still, even if you do need to hide, come to my house instead. Nate, it's fine. He hammered it down for him, fidgeting with the yokai blaster in his overalls pocket. Great, you're gonna start worrying about me now, dork face. I already am, he sighed, the small smile staying glued to him. And don't call me that. Fine, playfully sticking his tongue out. Buck moved on from the silly nickname anyway. Humming in thought. He'd have to come with another one then. Something stupider. That'd surely rile him up. There were a few that stuck out in his mind, ones he immediately pushed down. And with the way Nate looked while he stared, nervously twitching his nose like a rabbit, it was getting harder for Buck. Nate broke the silence. Oh, by the way, my mom said she can get tickets for the fair, he started, a little embarrassed to ask. Do you want to come? Buck paused, taking his empty hand out of his pocket to scratch his neck. Aye, sounds fun. That cave was all he had back then. A lot of souls died that day. Far too many for it to take. Too scorched by the swirling inferno that engulfed the house entirely. She couldn't leave to search anyway. A snivelling stranger was at her feet, too young to process the thing. No tears. Shh. She attempted to soothe him, threading through these ferocious curly locks that blended in the fire so well, as if it were his fate to die there too, as if she'd let that come to pass. Come, this way. With nowhere else to go, how could he refuse? It wasn't like him to blindly follow others. He'd had a similar description at home, a problem child, they called him. All his peers did, even when he didn't fully understand why. Just as well they were gone now. Vengeance had been served, though he never saw it that way. He didn't have a clue. And even when he trailed behind the strange woman, he couldn't tear his eyes away from the house. Mama. No. This way. Don't look there, he instructed, voice staying soft like silk. She was taking him for a reason. It was better this way, was his guess, and naturally being the minuscule, powerless boy he was, he had no choice but to listen. He could check up on Mama later. Sirens drew closer, panicked civilians flocking to the scene, the two remaining hidden in the back of the garden's personal forest. Still, that didn't mean he never panicked, the boy scrambling to climb up and over the brick fence. Unlike him, the woman didn't pass that roadblock. Huh? He blinked, frowning at her sudden halt. She simply shook her head. I must say, I'm not allowed to leave. But you must go. But all words died in his throat, replaced by a surprised squeak at the bright light. And when it settled, she was gone. All that was left was a white deer, the ethereal silhouette of such an animal, just like the one he'd seen before. And just like any timid animal of her kind, she fled. The child left to fend for himself. Every day after that, he questioned her existence, soon convincing himself she was merely a hallucination, crafted as an anchor for such a horrifying time. That'd make sense, wouldn't it? Naturally, children had far more intuitive imaginations than any other humans. It wasn't out of the question. Maybe she was another type of god. He was manufactured to treat said beings as superior, flawless, watches of every step he took, every decision he made. And for that he believed she blessed him. He thanked her. At least that was what he thought for a while. If she were truly that impenetrable, why must she be imprisoned within those grounds? Why must these dwindling visitors stay fractured by that fence? That gratefulness morphed into hatred. He shouldn't have listened. He should have gone back to find her, his mama. Then maybe he wouldn't be so starved. And maybe he would be gone for good. He would finally leave him alone. I didn't do it. That evening, in the present, while spinning the yokai blaster on a single finger, his pale eyes lazily peering at a river flowing below. Of course, the voice returned. The boy barely bothered to react anymore. I expected as such. You wouldn't do it. You have the cowardice of any other common child. I'm sorry. Pause. Do you love him? Immediately, a grimace came to his face. Wait, so who's this? Is this the same voice from? Oh, something again then. Of course, the voice returned. The boy barely bothered to react anymore. I expected as such. You won't do it. You have the cowardice of any other common child. I'm sorry. Pause. Do you love him? Immediately, a grimace came to his face. No, no, I'm not a. Despite his insistence, he couldn't bring himself to finish that. Oh no, I was wrong. Pretend not to know it. Letting out a heavy sigh, the man stepped out in front of him. Then what are you waiting for? Giovanni sighed, gesturing to the blaster. You have that for a reason, Wyatt. Hurting his misty eyes, the boy nodded. Yes, father. I was going to try and aim for the end of chapter 15, but I'll have to finish it off. I'll finish it up for today. But that is actually also a really good place to end it. We now finally have the official confirmation that Giovanni Hazeltine is Buck's father. And also something interesting, his name, he wasn't given the name Buck by his parents. He was called Wyatt. And interesting thing about that is the original localization name of Buck. In the original Japanese, it's called Mac. When they were localizing him for, I think it was the mobile game Wibble Wobble, if I recall correctly, he was given the name Wyatt. And then when the actual game Yokai Watch 3 came out, they've said, no, we'll go with Buck. So yeah, he's got three, well, at least three names. There's probably others in different localizations. It's cool to get that kind of reference. But yeah, that's it for today. It's a bit shorter than usual, but these chapters are getting to be quite long now. I feel like we covered a lot in the story. So after this, we've got I think 9 chapters left, including chapter 14. So be looking forward to reading through those. And yeah, that's it. Bye.